Thank you, Chris. Like he said, my name is Matt Wilmore, and I'm the Senior Director of Product Management here at Modo. And thank you for spending some time with us today to talk about the campus app as a force multiplier for student information systems. So today, on our agenda, we're going to start off talking about the state of affairs. Where do things sit today? We're going to follow that up with some examples of force multipliers and what we really mean in that term. We're going to follow that up with some peer examples of what some of your peers in higher ed are doing today, and then how you can start on that journey yourself today. We will follow that with some examples of how Modo can help you on that journey, and then end up with some Q&A at the end. So let's get started. I wanted to talk just briefly about Modo and who we are. If you're not familiar, so Modo was founded about 12 years ago out of MIT and started in higher ed. That's where our roots are. And we are really a platform that is designed to provide this unified experience for your constituents, whether it's students, staff, faculty, alumni, prospective students, everybody in between. And it's designed to be your app. It's not a Modo app that students, staff, and faculty really download. It's your app, and we're just the engine helping powering those unified experiences that you create and deliver to your users. We're trusted by some of the leading universities and institutions all across the world, as well as large enterprises that also trust Modo to deliver its really next generation employee experiences as well. So let's get into the state of affairs, and specifically I want to talk about the state of student affairs. Really, we are today in the age of this digital campus. Apps are must-haves, and this is what students show up to campus expecting. Apps are not something that's a nice-to-have or an additional marketing feature. This is something that a student just anticipates having when they come to campus, like any social media app or tool that they use today. This is just table stakes, if you will. We're also seeing in this state of student affairs this pendulum for hybrid learning swinging back towards in-person. Of course, this is changing every day. And when we originally talked about this topic back in 2020, the pendulum, of course, was swinging way towards remote learning and how do I use an app like Modo to engage users no matter where they are. And that's still the case today, although we're seeing that more people are thinking of doing their semester in the classroom, or perhaps a few days a week they're in the classroom. That's actually based on our research and then what we're hearing from other customers. But that pendulum is going to swing back and forth. But it's important to have a platform like Modo that can help take advantage of the user engagement no matter where the user has to be. But no matter where the user is, their lives are taking place on their devices. They're spending more and more time, on average between 4 and 5 hours a day. For some groups, it's even higher. And this is really, again, where they expect to be. This also actually provides an opportunity because of all the things and all the tools that a university may use to try to engage users. The device is one of the only ones that the users have on their person 24 hours a day. So there's a unique opportunity to engage students really where they are on those devices, where they're spending a lot of their time already. Also, personalized is really where it starts today. We're not seeing something where it's enough anymore to have an app with events and just the dining menu and maybe an app, or a map. Personalized, like it says here, is where it starts today. Every other app, if you think about it, that students are interacting with on a regular basis are about them, whether it's something like social media, email, other communications tools. It's really all about them, and everything is focused and tailored on that front screen for them. So why wouldn't your own campus app follow that same method? The last two things here I think are some of the most important ones. First of all, they don't really care about the platforms involved. We talk about the SIS or the LMS, and they don't really care what those are. They don't care about Modo. They don't care about different platforms. All they want to know is what's next. Give me a tool that I can have in my hand and use that to get to the next step of my journey as a student towards graduation. And really, that's where we want students to be too. We want to push them and nudge them towards that next step. And fortunately, they're asking the same question, but that's important for us to be able to answer for students on a regular basis. In addition, we're seeing some troubling numbers in terms of enrollment. It's down nearly 7% since 2019. The last academic year, it's down 3% alone. At community college, it's even more drastic, down over 13% since 2019. And the persistent rate is down 2 points in 2020. This is something that has not typically happened in the past, and is just part of a growing trend of students either stopping out or deciding not to enroll in the first place. We're seeing headlines like from the Times saying not coming, not staying, and other ones even popping up in the last couple weeks about students who are just deciding not to go to school for different reasons. And this poses a challenge. And that's not to say that all hope is lost, but it's important for us to know sort of the state of things today. Now let's switch things to the campus. What are the state of affairs there? Now, the registrar is really the keeper of the data for the SIS and a lot of this data, and the role in serving students as well as the rest of the institution has really never been greater. We have all these things that are on the plates and the minds of the registrar, anything from enrollment and engagement to retention, summer melt, aid in this proverbial partridge in the campus pear tree. There's so many demands being placed on registrar from all over the campus, and it's just a growing need with, as it says here at the bottom, more demands and fewer resources. At the same time, there's a challenge on campuses in general to prevent app sprawl. And what that means is there are always lots of one-use, single-purpose apps that tend to find their way into different departments and different parts of the campus. There may be an app that's just for athletics. There may be one for dining. There may be a second one for dining. There may be some student-created apps to do different things. And while those are all okay at achieving those specific things, it makes for a huge problem for students and for administrators alike when it comes to things like curating the app presence in the store, to helping effectively communicate what apps are out there and how to download them, how to use them, and having that single point of contact can really provide a better experience. But this is where a lot of the campuses are today that we have seen ourselves. And then attempting to manage costs and resources, always a perennial issue and ever important even today. This app sprawl comes at a cost. There's a real and a sort of a mental cost to keep track of everything and make sure everything is synced up. That costs time and money. And what we're seeing is that our universities have precious little of that and really can't waste the time on a variety of solutions to try to achieve something on campus, especially from the registrar's office. And so it begs these questions. What role can the student information system, be it PeopleSoft or Banner or some other one, play in really making it easier for students to succeed, and conversely, harder for them to fail? We want, of course, students to stay on track and to keep on that track towards success. And how can the SIS really be part of that, given everything that we talked about for the state of student affairs? Students are living on their devices. They want to know what's next. How do we tie those together? And how can the SIS really help to ease discovery of other content in a single mobile-first solution? This should say mobile-first solution for students. And that's really important because you may not typically think of PeopleSoft or Banner as an example being the way that people learn about something that's also important, like indoor maps or digital IDs or things like that. But that's the whole idea of this force multiplier that we'll get into in just a second. And most importantly, we want to communicate to the students, like I said, here's what's next. Here's the next step on your journey towards success as a student and as a future alum that will turn around and donate lots of money to the university to keep that going strong. So now let's talk about this whole idea of force multipliers. And when I was originally putting this presentation together, I talked to people and they'd say, oh yeah, you mean like the force, you're going to talk about Yoda. And if anybody is watching this and associated with Disney, please do not come after me. I wanted to make this point about people using Yoda as the reference there. But maybe, let's get a more current. Let's say, all right, this is what people are actually talking about, right? This is the force, right? This is what we're talking about. And not quite, but this is what a lot of people said. So if you thought about this, you're not wrong at all. It's a little bit different, but talking about force multipliers, you need to have this initial force, right? And so what we're going to do is first talk about what Modo does in terms of just SIS integrations, and we'll just talk about this to set the stage. Modo has SIS integrations for PeopleSoft and Banner, among others, and we do this in a way that provides this really nice integrated experience for students to get things done and help answer that question, what's next? It's really easy access to things like registration, grades, financial transactions, schedules, and more, all unified in a single place on mobile and desktop. Better in performance compared to some other solutions out there. If it's a solution for PeopleSoft, we have our own in-house platform called XCampus that we have and build ourselves. And then for customers using Banner, we have an incredible partner named N2N who helps facilitates that, and they live and breathe Banner integrations and are one of our most trusted partners in helping these things come to life. And the fact is that they're all pre-built. These are off-the-shelf, turnkey, ready to go. And so when your campus is at the point of wanting to have PeopleSoft or Banner as an example integration, you can turn to Modo because we have done the work and we're ready to go on this today. So just something to keep in mind there. So let's take that example, this SIS integration, whether it is PeopleSoft or Banner, as this original sort of point. And one thing we talk about in higher ed a lot is this idea of a killer app for students. And the important point here is that not every student is going to have the same killer app. And what I mean by a killer app is what is really the thing that keeps you not just downloading the app, but coming back to the app day by day. When I was at Notre Dame, it was for a lot of students, honestly, dining. They wanted to see what was at the dining halls before they even got out of bed. And so they would come back to the app every day because that was where they could get that information in a trusted, easy to consume, native format where they were. During the first few weeks of school, things like the schedule and the map were really important and were those killer apps or killer features for those students, but that can change over time. This can and will remain a consistently killer app throughout their time in school because the business of being a student changes over those 4 years. They're thinking about financial aid and what to do. They're thinking about their schedule. They're doing their ad drop. They're looking at their classes day by day. They're scheduling meetings with their advisor. All those things, again, that business of being a student are right in their top of their minds, and having this as a center point or a killer app in your campus app can really set the stage for success and give them an anchor point and a reason to download the app and use it because it's something that they know is going to be critically important for them. But this is that initial force that we can then borrow from and amplify what the app is used for and amplify the discovery inside the app. And we have this thing that I've observed myself and we've observed with other schools, what we're really calling a halo effect. And what that means is while students, faculty, staff, whoever is using the app may initially go into the application to see something like grades or schedule or financial aid, they will discover other things that the app also has for them. And that can include things like notifications. As they're walking into the registrar's office, they get a notification about signing up. Or if they're walking into campus, they get a notification about COVID self-assessment, something like that. As they are new students, they may see an experience really just for them. And we have things like the starter kit, which are turnkey, no code, and can be used by you to really quickly roll out really unique, highly engaging experiences for these students for different parts of their academic career, like NSO. They may see things like course catalogs, so not just looking at what their current courses are, but thinking about the future and planning for what they want to do next semester and even next year. Things like LMS integration. So the other side of this killer feature for an SIS is actually the classes themselves, announcements, grades, communicating with the instructor, and of course we have turnkey integrations for the most popular LMSs like like Blackboard and Canvas. So somebody may not come into the application looking for their LMS or looking for their class schedule or looking for NSO or looking for a course catalog, but they can discover that while they are looking at, for example, financial aid. And so in this way, the SIS can be a force multiplier for other things on campus that are equally important, but maybe not as easily discovered without having this be at the center of the app. And we can go, of course, even further from there. So now that they've discovered the LMS, they're continuing to look around the app and they say, oh, well, as an admitted student, maybe somebody else who's looking around and hasn't registered yet, they see that there's an experience just for them. This is, by the way, another one of our starter kits that's ready to go out of the box. They may see information on health and wellness. This has been a huge push across the country and the world for universities, and we actually partnered with a number of universities to develop this health and wellness starter kit that can be in the application and provide really valuable information for users on what to do and resources available to them on campus, which often they just don't know exist. But again, this is really an interesting phenomenon we see now, where a student went into the application, they heard about it, they downloaded it, they're checking their grades, maybe they have a little anxiety about financial aid or their schedule, and they're looking at the app, and suddenly they're discovering resources on campus about mental health and wellness, and just by discovering, using this halo effect, they're discovering other really interesting and compelling content in the application, really just for them. Other things like chatbots. So now I've made that next step where I have a question about financial aid. I can now go into this interactive chatbot, such as this one powered by Mainstay, and ask a question about financial aid. What's even better, I can do this at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, because that's when I'm not able to sleep and worried about this. The financial aid office is closed, but that's okay because the chatbot is always open. So again, a great way to discover additional things that can be done inside the application. They may also discover, hey, I have the ability to have a digital ID directly on my app because I'm a student. So now they're less worried about losing their plastic ID because now they have this digital ID that they can provision. And they can do that using something inside the application. We have partnerships with companies like TouchNet to do this. And then if you look at this one, we have an integration with HID to do digital access. So not only can I see this card on my phone, now I can actually use Bluetooth or NFC to badge into my dorm or badge into the library or pay for lunch, things like that. And so now all this discovery is happening inside the app. And again, going back to the SIS as that center point, that acorn of which somebody went into the application and discovered all this other cool content that's really available to them as a student. Things like COVID self-assessment. So we've had some schools which have required users to do self-assessment before they even come to the building. That, of course, is changing, and there's not a lot of schools today that are doing that specifically, but they still have an interest in doing COVID self-assessment in general, and of course that can be facilitated through the app. Going one step further, now I'm going to actually provision this ID to Apple Wallet, to my Android device, to Apple Watch, and now I'm using that to get into the building. This is something that we developed in conjunction with TouchNet and Northern Arizona as an example, but think of all the things that are now part of this application. The SIS is at the core, but there's so much more around it. Things like indoor wayfinding. So great, I've got an appointment with the advisor. I have no idea where to go inside the registrar's office, but thanks to something like indoor wayfinding, I can get turn-by-turn live directions from where I am to the office of the registrar to have that meeting. Things like space reservations. This is actually a feature that came out of the enterprise side, but we're seeing some increased usage for desks and rooms in higher ed. And don't think of it as floors of an office and desks to work, but think of things like study carrels, or if you're doing room reservations, think of empty classrooms that are open to students to reserve off hours. Those type of tools can make a huge difference when a student is looking for a quiet place to study or looking for a place for a club to meet, things like that. And now, again, this app of yours is providing all these amazing resources. Going forward, things like a marketplace. So now they may not know that a marketplace existed, but now it's in the app, and now they can buy and sell things that they may not need, and they can find football tickets, or they can find a ride, or even things like find a t-shirt for their favorite club, or pay dues for Greek life. All those things are happening in marketplaces in Modo schools. And again, they didn't go into the application looking for the marketplace or any of these things, but they found them because that SIS is the force multiplier for SIS. So this also extends into the desktop as well, and we talked about mobile so far, but there's a whole desktop portal aside of this. And what we've seen over the past maybe 2.5 years is that universities, which previously had really relegated the desktop portal to something that's we have this, it's sort of on the side, it gets used, but it's not really important. That has completely changed now. All these schools have been coming back to Modo and saying we want to also solve for the desktop just like we did for mobile. And again, Modo is able to solve for that as well. This is the exact same platform that you have for mobile. You can have a single sort of layout for mobile and desktop that scales up or down depending on the device type. But in some cases, a lot of schools are wanting a unique complementary experience for desktop. Same authentication, all the integrations you've done carry over here, but they want a desktop experience that is really unique and takes advantage of that screen real estate. And of course, that is certainly possible. So you can see a lot of the turnkey stuff here, like seeing financial aid status, path to graduation, announcements and to-do list, and current courses. This is an example for Canvas. All these integrations and turnkey widgets that can be added to the portal that really easily help the student, again, answer the question, what's next? As we go through all this, it can be certainly overwhelming from the perspective of, geez, I don't really have the time or the money or the resources on my campus to do all of this. And the important thing to realize is you don't have to do all of this right now. You can do pieces of it at a time. You can really start with this. This agility curve is what we call this, and we've used this over a number of years. And you can really start at this engage stage where you're having persona-based or location-based information, instant communication. You get into this empower phase where you have other features to make decisions and crowdsource innovation. You can actually have people on your campus, including students, serve as subject matter experts and help to contribute content to the application. It's not on you as an app developer or you as somebody in the registrar's office to necessarily own all of this. You can own as much or as little as you want and then delegate out to those who are experts or able to help, even if they don't have technical experience. And this empower stage is really where you have students being able to start to answer that question about what's next. And then this elevate stage, which all of our customers are getting towards, is really the stage where it's hyper personalized, dashboard based, and helping motivate those students to be successful. As we look at this, it's important, like I said, to be able to do this in an agile manner and think about what you want to do on day 1 versus day 100. There's somebody who used to be with Modo who would always say, day 1, launch day, will be a great day, but it won't be your best day because that's still yet to come. There's always more that you can add as quickly or as slowly as you really want to your application over time. So think about things that could help be useful to students immediately. Things like health self-assessment, return to campus if that's something that you're in the middle of now, self-guided tours, health and wellness, finding a place to study, finding PPE. And then as you get into other things that'll also drive benefits but may take longer to implement for different reasons, things like a marketplace, indoor wayfinding, space booking, transit, having those portals, LMS integration, ad drop, things like that, those can all come at different times. This is not, by the way, the order in which things must be done. You could start out, and we've had some schools start out and say, you know what, the first thing we're going to do is the student dashboard, and that's fine. You can add the personas later. You can then come back and do the health self-checks. It's really up to you, but we provide the flexibility and the agility to let you make those decisions for what is added to the app and when. So I do want to cover, of course, some peer examples. It wouldn't be fair just to talk about what we can do but not show how it's being done. University of Houston is a great example of how this is being done. David Johnson, who's the CIO there, had this great quote where he said, "My motto is one app to rule them all." And we really love this quote, of course, because that's something that we truly believe as well. Modo 4 makes that even easier for University of Houston to accomplish by providing a seamless one-stop experience that accelerates our digital transformation strategy. So, of course, Modo 4 is our latest and greatest platform itself, and University of Houston was one of our premier launch customers for Modo 4, and we really appreciate that of them. But it's really focused around, again, this idea of how do we provide an app that solves the needs of the students, of which the SIS can certainly be that force, that sort of nugget to use the campus app as a force multiplier. And you can see here examples of how University of Houston has designed their app to be as helpful as possible to different contingencies of students, whether you are student, staff, faculty, a future student, or even a visitor. It's different experiences depending on who you are and what you're trying to do on the certain day. And they've done a fantastic job of building out custom integrations that they've done or that we've helped them with to do anything from calling the police and having your location tracked while you're talking to the police, to understand which areas of campus are busy or not, depending on data from their access points, to viewing things like your tuition. So these are all, again, PeopleSoft integrations that Houston has been able to do for things like book loans and charges and refunds and account summaries, things like that, all directly within their mobile app. Fantastic example of what's possible here. The next example is University of Akron. Steve Sedlock at Akron had a fantastic example here, which is really, about their app. And this app, as students are racing across campus to get to their class, which is absolutely true, this app shows them things that they really need to know in that moment in time. Instructor information, schedule, class location, walking directions, have the information they need at their fingertips whenever they need it. That is really what we're trying to do here, is help our customers, our schools, our partners really provide that information to students, to have that in their hands. So again, the students are answering the question for themselves, what's next? And that's really the goal. If we can give students back 5 minutes a day, because the information they need to know so they can make a decision and get along with their day is present in the application, then we will have been successful. Another example here, Penn State University, which is using Modo throughout all of their 23 campuses. You see on the right, this is their mobile app, which they started with first. This is the example for University Park, their largest campus, but they also expanded it into the desktop, and they use some integrations to show things like my profile, courses that are coming from Canvas, things that are coming from other systems on campus, all in one place. And they're using Modo to provide a single complementary experience between both mobile and desktop, with some affordances for each. For desktop especially, you can see some additional things on the left and right there for those columns. So they started with the mobile side, expanded into the desktop, but they're looking to provide, again, a complementary experience. If I'm using the mobile app in the morning, I go on my desktop in the afternoon, I log in there, I know what to do and where to go, because it's the same platform. It's recognizable, and they can get started right away. Another example is Northern Arizona University, who has used their application to provide just a host of personalized content for students. They're, of course, the school I mentioned earlier that's doing the Apple Wallet IDs for iOS, and then Android is coming very soon. But again, they have a portion in their application called Louis, and Louis Go is part of NAU Go. And again, that provides things like class schedule, information about the registrar, all at their fingertips. So a student can be walking between class and have access to all that really critical information about the business of being a student while they are walking between classes. And that's the whole idea here, is that just because it's registrar information, just because it is sitting in PeopleSoft or Banner, that doesn't dictate that a user needs to be at a desktop to get things done. They can be on the go with something like Louis Go and have access to that right where they are. So this is really the idea here, and we're really excited to have so many great partners like NAU, Houston, Penn State, Akron, etc., that help understand that and are able to see that themselves. Another example here, of course, is University of Cincinnati, who has taken the initiative to build out the first version of their own portal using Modo to have information, again, at their fingertips, things like tasks. So this is a really great experience of helping nudge the student to answer this question, what's next? Well, here's what's next. The next thing I need to do in the screenshot is upload my immunizations. So that's the very next thing I need to do. And so as a new or incoming student, there is no question what's next up on my list and what to do. So every time I log in here, it represents me and my financial aid and my bills and my dates and my resources. And that's really what schools are looking for today, is to provide that personalized experience. And this, by the way, is designed, they have done this for the desktop. This would absolutely work on the mobile side as well. That's the decision they made. That's, again, the flexibility of the platform. You can decide the interfaces, the look and feel, everything for each user. So there's just a handful of examples. Of course, we have many more, but we have other things to do today than just talk about examples. So next, I wanted to talk about how you can get started today with your own journey towards this force multiplier strategy. The first thing that's really important to do is identify pain points for completing campus processes. And this isn't something that you perhaps would entirely be able to do by yourself. It's really important to get out on campus and talk to students. Talk to people who are using the registrar or the SIS content every day and ask them, what are the pain points that exist? And try to not coach them to answer in the context of the app either, but just say, what are the pain points? What takes a lot of time? What is confusing? What do you find yourself needing to ask for help a lot, or schedule appointments to talk with somebody to answer? And that can really help drive how something like this in the app could be made easier, could make the day-to-day processes for your users easier. Think about accessibility, both how I can get that information on the device, like I showed for Northern Arizona and some other schools, but also accessible technology. If you were to take your existing PeopleSoft or Banner environment and put it on a mobile device today, would it be accessible? Could somebody with a screen reader effectively use it? Could somebody with a cognitive or a motor control disorder be able to use it? These are things, by the way, that we actually build into the product, and both the Banner and PeopleSoft integrations avail themselves of automatically. So just by using the Modo platform, you automatically have an experience that is themed to look like the rest of the application. You have an experience that is highly accessible and compliant with accessibility standards and seamlessly blends into the rest of the application, something that PeopleSoft or Banner really can't do on their own. Also think about time-sensitive tasks. What are things that you may require a student to do within a couple days of you assigning that to them, whether it's registering for classes or picking an appointment with an advisor? What are those time-sensitive tasks, and how could you use the app as a way to accelerate that and get it in their hands faster through things like a push notification, where they can get that done more quickly? Going back to the pain points, I had mentioned something about the resource load. So think about, what are those things that you ask people to do in the SIS that end up taking a lot of time from your registrar staff because you're having to answer the same questions over and over or put up FAQs online? Are those things that could be made easier or could be done automatically because you're using something like a Modo platform? I'd also look at campus services and resources here that I said that are SIS adjacent. And what I mean by that is, think about things that maybe aren't the SIS specifically, but are our neighbors. Things like the LMS that might use SIS data. Things like ways to get around campus to go visit the registrar. Think about other pieces of data that depend on registrar data that are also helpful to students. And this is going to differ between campuses, but it's just important to think about, hey, if I put my SIS into an app, what also could be made easier because of that? And then the last thing to think about is getting plugged into the app strategy. Most campuses have some state of a mobile app either in progress or planned. And unfortunately, all too often, some of them will think, well, we've got all the right people in the room, but they're missing somebody. And sometimes that somebody is somebody from the registrar office, because they think, well, either the registrar is not interested or this isn't something we can necessarily do. But you need to be part of that app strategy and have that voice, so that registrar is taken care of and we're thinking about those use cases, specifically what to solve for students. In addition, get to know your neighbors. Look at the other departments that are perhaps participating in an app strategy. and think about how that might work. In addition, think about how your area can help deliver a unified campus experience. So think about the SIS side, the registrar side. If the responsibility is in your group to do this, how would you actually make this unified campus experience happen? And how would you place the SIS perhaps at the center of the formula for students to go in there, discover that, and then discover other things in the application beyond it. We've talked almost the entire time about students, but think about faculty and staff too. What could the experiences be like for them? Of course, we know that there are things, excuse me, in the experience that are, of course, about students, but PeopleSoft and Banner, of course, both have faculty and staff sides. We do have solutions for that as well. But think about those experiences, and that could potentially be something that you do as a later addition. But think about what the platform you have today does to support that. Faculty and staff are increasingly mobile native as well. And so how are we supporting them in the same way we're supporting students? One of the great things about higher ed is that most of the applications are in the store and available for anybody to download. So I would encourage you to do that. Download and explore those apps and just see what's out there. And most of them you can at least download and get into a certain portion before you have to log in. But explore those. If you have friends at other registrars at other universities, go call them up and talk to them and ask them what's going on. And most importantly, realize that you are the force. You can be that force multiplier. This is you. You can be Baby Yoda, and you can go out there and help drive that vision on campus to be a really mobile-first, highly engaging platform that is helping to address real needs from students, staff, and faculty, and more every day. So, how can Modo actually help you to do this? Well, like I said earlier, we have these SIS integrations that are ready to go, both for PeopleSoft and Banner. The PeopleSoft integration is done by us ourselves, and then we have the fantastic partner in end-to-end to facilitate these Banner integrations. These are ones that are unified, puts us all together, things like notifications and SIS and LMS all together in a single platform, themed and accessible to match everything else. And what a fantastic experience we have in doing this for different customers already. Would love to add your campus to that list. Pre-built and ready to go, turnkey designed to be fast and ready to go quickly, and faster than other solutions out there on the market through testing we've done. Everything that you would perhaps want to have in a campus experience in an app, we have ready to go for you. Beyond just the SS integration, we are really committed to setting you up for success. We want you to be customers for life, and we're committed to making that happen. And to help do that, we have a bevy of resources for higher ed customers. Things like this portal you see on the left that includes a Modo user group. We have a meeting every month with dozens of campuses who will join. We'll have presentations from other campuses on what they're doing to help their students be successful, as well as new features and tools available to you in the platform. We have a comprehensive training resource center with both live and on-demand training. We have sample JSON for things like our X module development platform. We have playbooks, guides, starter kits so many more than we talked about even today. Design templates, support forums, the community, and even a marketing kit, and of course all the hands-on experience you could possibly ask for, because we are of course truly dedicated to making sure that you are successful and a customer of Modo's for life. Beyond that, we have an extensive integration portfolio as well. So as you think about, well, I've got PeopleSoft set up and I've got Canvas set up, what else is in there? You know what, there's a ton in there. And for anything from ticketing from ServiceNow to using sensors for indoor wayfinding for things like Aruba or Maps People as an example, to doing desk booking, to doing anything like, shuttle tracking with something like a Transloc or TripShot or NextBus. We have you covered. So there's a huge number of things that you can do beyond just the SIS and the LMS integrations, but we're there for that, and we're a platform designed for answering your question of what's next and helping make that application even better than it was before. We really would love to help you deliver a cohesive digital experience to your campus, and we encourage you to reach out to us at modolabs.com/campus. You can see other examples, other case studies from schools who have been successful, other resources for you as a school, and of course we'll have the Q&A open here at the very end of this. So with that, I do actually want to open this up and see if there are any questions for or from the audience. So I'm seeing a couple questions here that have been posed by people in the audience. We'll go ahead and answer those. The first question was asked is, how do most schools, or what do most schools rather do first? Given all the things that you can do, I think is what they're saying, what do you choose to focus on first? And that's a great question. You can certainly do everything at once. We advise not doing that because that tends to be an extremely long development cycle before there's the first version of the app that's out the door. And so I think it's important to think about what are the real pain points that exist on campus and what could I help to solve for more quickly. Now, there may be a ton of pain points when it comes to registrar or just things that students need to do. There may be way more than can be fit into sort of a V1. And so it's important to think, what is something that's a manageable bite that we can take to get that V1 out the door, gauge feedback, and then iterate based on that. For some, schools have been really focused on doing the portal first and then worrying about mobile second. For some, it's been mobile and desktop, but really just focused on the registrar integration. For some, they focus on other things, like a new student experience, getting integrated with something like Canvas or Blackboard, and then visiting the registrar integration a little bit later. So what is really most pressing on your campus and what is doable in that first iteration are the really key questions to ask yourself. If you have any more questions about that, we're happy to answer. We have tons of peer examples, and we can have you speak with some of our peers who have deployed Modo as well to get some more insight, but it's really going to be based on your campus's unique needs. Another question I see posed here is, how much time does it take to launch a new app? And that's a great question. We get asked that a lot. And unfortunately, there's not a single good answer. It really depends on, one, the scope of which you want that initial version of the app to be, and two, the amount of resources available at the institution to help make this happen. Now that brings up another point that I'd like to address, which is you don't need to have a huge army of people who are working on this app to help to get it launched or to keep it running. The majority of customers have less than one FTE working on the application. That being said, we do have some, like University of Houston or Cincinnati, for example, that do have multiple resources able to focus on the platform. But that really depends on the school and their different situation. That being said, there's likely a larger group that are involved, a steering committee perhaps, involved in the initial rollout. That's actually what I did myself at Notre Dame. I had a steering committee from across the campus, mostly so nobody could say I wasn't part of this process, but also it helps to delegate some of those initial build-out tasks to different departments that were subject matter experts and get that delegation set up. I think the fastest we've seen a higher ed school go live is about a week. And in August, it's been 6 months or more. And that, again, depends on scope, depends on availability of resources, and what we're looking to do for that initial version. So happy to answer this in more detail if you have specific requirements, or talk with us or somebody on our sales team to get more information, but that will help dictate the amount of time necessary to go live. So given the time, of course, we want to be respectful of everybody's time. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. If there are additional questions that come in, please don't hesitate to send those in while wrapping things up, or send information to communications@modolabs.com or sales@modolabs.com. We'll be happy to answer those, and look forward to speaking with you soon about getting started with Modo Campus. And with that, I will hand it back to Chris.